So one of the reasons that we are having this session, the healthcare sector, the healthcare providers contribute about 5% of damage to the environment. So it's a significant amount, and I think together we need to try and see how we can bring it down. So as healthcare systems around the world, they face growing challenges, both from climate change and resource constraints, to the ever-increasing expectations from patients and systemic inefficiencies. We heard a lot about these inefficiencies earlier today. The call for sustainable solutions has never been louder. So this is actually, when you talk about sustainability, it goes beyond only environmental responsibility. It encompasses economic viability, because without economic viability, it is not sustainable. Operational resilience, and above all, the ability to consistently deliver high quality care. And that's what we're talking about today, high quality care. Very importantly, giving high quality care without compromising the future. So this session is dedicated to exploring real world strategies and innovations that demonstrate how healthcare institutions are moving beyond conversations and into meaningful and resourceful action. That's why we have actually named it Walk the Talk. We'll hear different models from the experts that integrate patient safety with sustainability, health systems that have embedded sustainability thinking into their healthcare operations, and importantly, technologies that are redefining efficiency and environmental impact. So with that, I think we'll start the session, and I'd invite our first speaker, Mr. Andrew Rosen, to take the stage. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I see I'm competing with lunch today. That's okay. Thank you to distinguished chairpeople and distinguished other presenters. My name is Andrew Rosen. I'm the Vice President of Joint Commission International. I know this is a session on sustainability, and I'll get to that, but I hope you'll permit me to take a short detour to begin. The theme for this conference is collaboration. It's a wonderful theme. So I'd like to talk briefly about how we at the Joint Commission think about collaboration in terms of quality and patient safety. And then I'm going to tie that into sustainability. This is the Joint Commission. We turn 75 next year, more than 23,000 accredited or certified organizations around the world. We have a large team that develop our own proprietary standards. We're always learning, we're always working to improve. You may not know this, but we're called the Joint Commission because we started as a collection of different medical and provider associations who came together to improve quality back in the 1950s. So collaboration is really in our DNA. Now, one of the most important ways that we collaborate is with groups such as CAHO. I'm very proud to be on the advisory council. We work with similar groups all around the world to help advance quality for everyone. We recently announced an alliance with NAEQ, which provides certification for individual quality and safety practitioners globally. The second way that we collaborate is through promotion of high reliability organizations. Now, I remember one of the first major quality studies that I worked on a number of years ago, maybe 20 years ago now, where we looked at a number of big hospital systems who had been able to sustain measurable high quality across a number of years. And we tried to understand what they were doing differently. We expected a series of different best practices from each of them, but what we found is that each of these organizations were doing the same four things. And one of the most important of those four things was that they understood that quality was everybody's job, from the top leadership to the janitor. And that keeping people safe in the incredibly complex 24/7 high-stakes environment of the modern hospital required leadership prioritization, required the use of every pair of eyes, every pair of ears, every brain, including the patient and their visitors, to be continually alert. Now, this is not to diminish the importance of the quality department. You're the coordinators, the educators, the experts. Thank you for all that you do. But in the safest organizations that we've studied, the culture is that the entire enterprise is ultimately responsible for quality. And so I'd like to offer a special thank you to those of you who are here who are not from the quality department, because you understand this. This joint responsibility, one of the many factors of high reliability we call the environment of collective mindfulness, is one of the core principles of high reliability that we teach to many organizations around the world. Third, and I don't think this is always well understood, we see accreditation as collaboration, not merely inspection. Now, our aim at JCI has always been not regulation, but improvement. Organizations who have been with us for decades have seen this. Our surveyors are in the unique position of seeing best and sometimes worst practice from all around the world. And they spend as much time in the survey process educating, coaching, collaborating, as inspecting. It's a very, very important part of how we use accreditation to encourage improvement. And I have an announcement to make, an important one. We're taking this collaborative approach even further through the introduction of JCI Continuous. This will be formally announced across the world in the next 2 weeks, I say. So you're getting a special preview here at CAHOCON. So while JCI has increased collaboration during the survey, this happens only every 3 years, and I think you'll see a debate about this later today. Our accredited organizations, many of you asked us for more support between surveys to improve, to focus on areas of most importance, and to reduce the all or nothing nature of the survey event itself. So we're introducing a new accreditation approach. You still have a survey every 3 years. You still prepare just as you always have done, but we've found ways to streamline that survey and make it more efficient and more focused, yet still robust. And following the survey will be virtual touch points with survey experts every 6 months across the 3-year period. Not inspections, not surveys, but they're there to support the organization in areas that need improvement and to prepare for the next survey. More information to come on that next week. There's no extra cost to this. It's how we think that we can improve collaboration, and I'm happy to discuss with anyone in more detail afterwards. But let's talk about the most important and the theme for this session, the fourth way that JCI thinks about collaboration, and that's the theme for this session, which is environmental sustainability. I'll start by asking you a question. What do these pictures have in common? I'll let you think about it. I'll come back to it in a second. For the rest of my time, I want to answer just 2 questions. Why is JCI focusing on sustainability as part of accreditation? And what does that mean for healthcare providers? So in July, we published the 8th edition of our hospital standards. It was a top-to-bottom revision. Great to see many of you at our session yesterday looking at some of the changes. Our aim in the revision was primarily to simplify. We reduced the number of standards by about 15%. But we also added a few things. Healthcare moves very fast, so we put new guidance on cybersecurity, EMR, and other technological advances. But most notable and new for us, and different, is a chapter on global health impact on sustainability. So you may ask, why put sustainability in a quality and safety standards manual? Let's go back to the pictures. What do these have in common? Any thoughts? Shout them out. I think so. I think I heard some of that. Yes, these represent important milestones in patient safety and quality across the past 200 years. Hand washing, sterilization, medication management, preventing patient falls. Now, one way to look at the history of patient safety is to look at it as a series of discoveries, right, where caregivers discovered that something they were doing or not doing in the process of giving care was in fact also causing harm inadvertently to patients, to themselves, to the community. That's how we realized we had to wash our hands, we had to manage needles safely, we had to control antibiotics, and among other things. Because if we didn't do that, those things could affect the patient, but not only the patient, but others as well, caregivers, community. So a series of discoveries, but also a series of battles, because changing these things was not easy. There was and still is resistance. And the discoveries and battles continue. So if we come back to the Joint Commission, we're now focused on some of the new things that we're starting to understand create risk. Technology use, including AI, inequity, and importantly for today, unsustainable practices. So we're increasingly aware that the operations of healthcare providers, your operations, caring for your community, can also hurt your community and all other communities. Let me show you what I mean. Climate change is already affecting health. I could give dozens and dozens of examples. Here's just one. Heat-related deaths of people over age 65 increased by 85% across the last 20 years. They're projected to rise almost 4 times in the next 25. But we're also talking pollution, food insecurity, new pathogens, increases in mosquito and other vector-borne diseases, and all of these exacerbating inequity by disproportionately affecting those with lower incomes. As you already heard, hospitals and healthcare providers are big contributors to pollution and climate change. Right? 5% or 4.4% of global carbon emissions from healthcare. If healthcare were a country, it would be the world's 5th largest emitter. Hospitals account for about 1/3 of healthcare emissions. But for me, a study in health affairs tells the story best. Researchers estimated that health damages from US healthcare pollution in the latest year studied were on the same order of magnitude as deaths from preventable medical errors. Think about that. That's the first reason why the Joint Commission considers sustainability a patient safety issue, and why we're fighting it for it to be considered as such. Healthcare operations, caring for people, harms patients, harms caregivers, and it harms communities by affecting the environment. The second reason is a bit different. I don't need to tell anyone here that the weather seems to have become more extreme. Now, an interesting study came out at the end of 2023 from the Cross-Dependency Initiative. They looked at over 200,000 hospitals all across the world under different climate change scenarios, and they tried to work out what would happen with flooding, with wind, with fire, and with rising sea levels in each scenario. And what did they find? They found that by the end of the century, if nothing changes, 1 in 12 hospitals would be at high risk of failing, shutting down due to extreme weather. And now, if these hospitals were residential or commercial buildings, they'd essentially be uninsurable. Now, I know the end of the century seems a long way away, but it's already started. In the last 30 years, there's been a 61% increase in Southeast Asia, for example, in risk of damage to hospitals by extreme weather events. And Asia is particularly vulnerable. On the right there, you can see a list of countries with the most high-risk hospitals. Who was number 1? India. 1 in 10 hospitals at high risk of failure. Although I would say island countries in Southeast Asia will be worse off, closer to 1 in 4 hospitals. In most places for now, the issue is flooding. In the future, it'll be rising coastal waters. So whether or not your hospital or health system is contributing to carbon emissions and pollution, whether or not you consider your operations a patient safety issue, climate change is going to affect you in other ways. Extreme weather will make your facilities and operations vulnerable. They may make them inaccessible. You may have no power, no food, no water. Staff may not be able to travel in. And even if you're not damaged, are you ready for surges in volumes when the community is hit by weather or famine or dengue or heat stress? So the other patient safety issue here is to do with how prepared your organizations are for climate change. Hospitals are already pretty tough. You certainly are prepared for heat here. But what happens when it becomes 55 degrees, 58 degrees in summer? We believe that hospitals have to improve their resilience even further to keep their communities safe. That's why the Joint Commission sees it as imperative to start to consider sustainability not just an ESG issue, not a political issue, but a patient safety issue. And I'm thrilled to see that CAHO in India are thinking the same way. And this is why we work together with the Geneva Sustainability Center, part of the International Hospital Federation, to create standards for it to be part of our general safety and quality standards for all hospitals and AMCs. We made the standards available to any accrediting organization to use. I know that for some of you, you've been working on sustainability for a very long time. However, I also know from talking with many of you that tackling sustainability is not something that's been on your agenda, and adding it to accreditation can seem overwhelming. Many of you are worried about that. So what I'd like to show you across the last 2 minutes, really, is that this is nothing to lose sleep over.
Can you wrap up in about 30 seconds? We're running out of time.
2 seconds.
Thank you.
Essentially, what we've set up here are 5 areas of standards. Each one of these are around beginning the standards journey. Right? So we don't set targets. They're around setting up someone who's in charge of sustainability, someone who is reporting it, educating your staff, using environmental resources, understanding what your power use is, you already know that, particularly looking at the procurement and supply chain management where 80% of emissions come from, and finally, looking at your emergency plans. This is a start. We believe there are tools that are available for free to be able to achieve any of these, and a very important part of this. And we believe sustainability ultimately is the ultimate form of collaboration because, in a sense, you are collaborating with every other organization around the world to protect everyone's communities. And with that, I'd like to thank you.
Thank you. I'll request my colleague and the former CEO of Fraser Health Authority, Dr. Victoria Lee, to do her presentation. Please welcome Dr. Victoria Lee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here, and I'd like to start by acknowledging and thanking the organizers of CAHO. It's an impressive conference, and just great to see everybody that's here. So thank you very much for having me. And I'd like to go through sickness to wellness care and how sustainability plays a role in that. So this is just a model, and I don't think it really matters where you are in the world. I've been to many, many different places looking at comparative health systems, and many of the health systems in the world are looking at sickness care, even though we call it health care. And I believe that the transformation that's required for us to be sustainable, whether it's financially, environmentally, is actually to turn it from sickness care to wellness care with some of the components that are mentioned here. Apologies, I try to switch it to CAHO PowerPoint template and the words are very small, but basically sickness care is very reactive, whereas wellness care would be much more proactive, and it's empowering individuals as partners instead of doctors as a center of knowledge, and it would be more individualized and precise instead of having one treatment for all, and we would actually know the value of the health system and the outcomes instead of unknown values, which is often the case that we are living in. And you did a great job of looking at all of the impacts of health impacts of climate, and also why it's important for us to pay attention, and whether it's the International Panel for Climate Change or whether it's the World Health Organization, we know that climate, sustainability are some of the greatest public health threats for us to pay attention to. So basically, I think from health system perspective, what we're looking at in Canada, even in Malaysia and other places globally, is beyond sustainability. How do we actually contribute broader to planetary health? And we were looking at earlier this morning, one of the quality arms is equity. And healthcare sustainability and planetary health actually impacts equity in that most vulnerable people are most impacted by sustainability, environmental degradation. Impacts of the health system from various emergencies, even though Canada is much more moderate in terms of temperature, it was very much felt in British Columbia because we actually had 1 in 1,000 heat dome event where we had hundreds of seniors that passed away, and tragically, as well as 1 in a 500-year flooding event and water where we had normal cities that became islands unto themselves. And we already heard about the fact that health system is such a big contributor in terms of our carbon and greenhouse gas generation as well. And in fact, we surpass aviation. So I think what's important for us as leaders in health system is to turn these thinking and background into actions that's meaningful. And I like to focus on actions because we often focus on problems and what's our problem, instead of talking about how do we get out of the problem and what can we do, what's our role in the health system. And I do believe that we have a very strong opportunity in our health system to actually have solutions that are healthy for people, healthy for our communities, and also healthy for our planet. So what does that look like? So I'm sure many of you have never heard of Fraser Health. It's actually one of the largest health service delivery systems in the country. And even though it's a small population in comparison to India, it's one of the largest population sizes in Canada because we look after about 2 million people. It's very diverse, 32 First Nations communities, 20 municipalities. We have over 90% of refugees in the province that settle into our region, as well as 40% of newcomers. So when we were looking at what do we do in our sustainability, what do we do overall in health system impact and making a difference for healthy people, healthy communities, one of the areas that we looked at was South Asian Health Institute. And in fact, Dr. Garg had a very, very pivotal role in establishing that in 2013. And the reason that we looked at South Asian population was that was one of the most populous and diverse populations in our region. So I think sometimes when we look at how do we provide culturally safe care and culturally appropriate care, we only look at languages. We're translating, so that's enough. We're translating our services, emergency services, OB-GYN services into different languages. But what we have learned through that experience, and again, Dr. Garg has been incredibly supportive in establishing not only the institute, but also connecting the dots with Canada-India Network Society and also CINI, which is a broader connection between Canada and India. What was really important is the role of culture. And the role of culture became an important parameter for us to establish services from addiction services to health services in long-term care, rehabilitation, elderly services, and we started to actually engage in broader communities, in schools and gurdwaras, and also going out to temples and talking about health and wellness in a different way. And in fact, we actually decreased amount of sugar that's being used in chai tea as an example. But I think this is the most fun example, and I think I need help from the folks on the tech side to play the video. And this is a video of how we had in our adult day center had seniors that were able to get their physical activity in a different way. And hopefully it'll play. It says it's not available. No luck? Anyway, we'll have to share it another time because I don't have too much time up on the stage here, but it's basically seniors learning how to dance with Beyonce music, and I thought it would get the crowd going and dancing, but it'll have to be another time for that. So the other very, very important work that we've done is to look at that cultural importance with Indigenous population in our region, because as First Peoples in Canada, they also have lots of learnings and knowledge in climate and how do we live with our earth in a way that's much more sustainable. So the things that we also heard from our Indigenous population and communities was how do we look at 7 generations ahead? How do we look at sickness from wellness? There's traditional knowledge and healing practices that could be included, as well as some cultures look at impacts of climate differently because there's climate anxiety and those types of impacts that are very different from colonialism as well. I think there might be some, I think, alignments in that area. So planetary health beyond sustainability became one of the anchor areas of our objectives and key results at Fraser Health. And that was looking at reducing our impact as well as becoming an anchor institute, being ready for emergencies, as you were talking about it from Joint Commission and what you're looking at in accreditation, as well as collaboration with our partners, because that's where we can have the biggest change and biggest impact at the population level. And I think what was really interesting was that we could do little things that became a big thing. So this is a very small example of the many things that we've done to be carbon neutral for 15 years of Fraser Health. And one was actually changing the climate impact of inhaler therapy, where going from salbutamol, for instance, to dry powder-based inhalers actually reduced our carbon output by 22%. And that's just one single example of what we've been able to accomplish in a short time to be carbon neutral. But there's so many areas, from food services, how we build our buildings, to how do we actually maintain our buildings and what kind of surgical instruments we use, as well as how we train people in a thinking very much in an integrative, connected way, looking at culture, looking at built environment, looking at all of the determinants, health as well, that will turn from sickness care to wellness care. So with that, I will leave you with this, because I think it also connects back to why we're here in India, because I think there's such ancient knowledge that really integrates mind, body, spirit, that I think Western cultures and systems can learn from. And I hope that we can bridge that gap to actually ensure that we have wellness care that moves forward, not only for our people, but communities, but for the planet as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria, for being right on time. Okay, I'll request our next speaker, Mr. Peter Friedrich, to speak on. Please welcome Dr. Friedrich.
So, thank you so much to be part of your great CAHOCON summit and give me the possibility to introduce Sumetzberger, Austrian product made in European Union, and we are proud to give this latest healthcare technology of pneumatic tube transportation system to the Indian market, and already successful in 170 hospitals in India. So we are the founder of the modern pneumatic tube system with fully automated pneumatic tube distributions on hospitals, and using this in laboratory blood samples transportation and automation, pharmaceuticals and other items like ampoules, blood bags and injections. So all small items in a hospital are shooting through our pneumatic tube system to all the locations in your hospitals. So our company is already well established and was founded 1921, and we are in the total international market of pneumatic tube systems since 1990. The roadmap you can see in my presentation. We started with as a small electrical installation company, and now we are an integrator in hospital logistics using PTS transportation as our favorite product, and then also AMR robotic systems for the bigger and bulkier loads in your hospitals. A small diagram of our pneumatic shooter and pneumatic tube transportation systems to see, but I think this most of the people are already knowing, because it's a must in every modern hospital all over the world. So what is this pneumatic shooter system making so reliable and stable? It's a one-touch only system with a full automated laboratory integration. That means take the blood at the nurse at the bedside side and send it fully automated into the analyzers and get the results in a few minutes. It depends for sure what kind of testing you are providing from the blood samples. So this is what the modern pneumatic tube systems are following, and giving this product a totally new market presence and gives it as a modern transportation application to all of the hospitals worldwide. It's fully automated and transported in safe and secure capsules, which are manufactured with silver ion technology, and you have no problems. You don't have any infections because of transportation of all your goods to all the locations in your hospitals. So this is the case that you can use it all departments and have no problems with this. The next level of pneumatic tube is to distribute the samples to different locations, to different labs in your hospital. So you are automatically receiving, you are sorting, checking in your samples, valid testing, and send them to the different lab applications using the big players in the market like Abbott or Roche or Beckman Coulter, and send it to their bulk loader to proceed them fully automated. That's the reason why we call it one touch only. So nobody has to touch the sample in the lab. It's just from the nurse, and the result is fully automatically back to the nurse places, and nobody has to check if it's lost or if there is any complaints on this transportation. This is possible with an integration in the Sort Pro, which is a high sophisticated 3,000 sample check in an hour, which is amazing fast and is already possible to give all the pre-analytic sample checks in 3,000 samples per hour. So this machine is already coming soon. So we are proud in Holy Family to install this in the next 3 months and give also this new innovation to the Indian market. The next step is the box picking system of integration into the PTS, that you make the logistics from the pharmaceuticals up to the point of care to the nurses in a full traceability. So you just order the boxes of medication from the automation. It's fully automated, loaded into the pneumatic tube shooter, sent to the right location, and the nurse can access with an access card to this medication, and you have the full track and trace of all your items you are moving from this machine to any places in your hospital. The robotic pneumatic tube station can be integrated in any of these logistic centers where you are stocking your medications and sending them out to the point of care of the nurses. And at this point of care, we have a software application used for handheld devices which can scan the medication, scan the wristband of the patient, and you have in every second the full traceability of all the medications which you already gave to your patient, and have the full report during his stay in your hospital. The same is happening with the blood samples. You scan the wristband, you print the barcode, you send the sample to the lab, and the one-touch system is giving you the results immediately from the analyzers of any of your equipments you are using in your lab automation. So all these equipments are full automated. The vision is to have the logistics in a hospital in a full automated systems and track and traceability and reporting of the patients during the stay in your location, in your hospital. So what is the conclusion of this? The best choice is to go with box picking automation, traceability of medication, sorting of samples, checking into your lab automation system, and report the results immediately to the nurses as soon as possible. So Sumetzberger is the #1 choice for hospitals 4.0 IoT solutions, and makes the hospital much more sophisticated and you are ready for NS2 and all these regulations are coming soon. So thank you so much for following my presentation, and I hope I can give you a small intervention of our product.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for being on time. Yeah, so thank you very much. Now, this is my great opportunity to conclude the session by saying few words. I want to start by acknowledging and grateful for my heritage of Indus Valley Vedic yogic science of some 5,000 years young and its influence on my career. I am from Canada. We have a custom of acknowledging of heritage of First Nations and its interrelations and impact on present. These are acknowledgement a part of sustainable thinking, our theme of our session. It's similar to the Diya lightning of India. Sustainability is a value, interconnected and part of other values like quality, safety, collaboration, accountability, among others, and what it means. Sustainability needs to be, friends, sustainability needs to be part of our thinking, which is our mind, and part of all decisions we take, all policies we develop, every action, every thought, strategy, tactics, process, and incentives must include sustainability. The biggest threat to sustainability is our dependence on reductive thinking and not integrative thinking. We need both, as progress of last 500 years is possible because of reductive thinking. It provides focused outcome and it is linear and concrete. Integrative thinking is a circular and abstract. Again, we need both for sustainability. Biomedical model fused with psychosocial model. In other words, fusion of best of East and best of West. India is the leading this, and CAHO can provide a global leadership. It's natural with our theme of Vasdev Vasu Kutamba. As stated by my colleague Dr. Lee and mentioned several times by Dr. Jeffrey Brathwaite of Australia in his opening remarks, India can lead the globe in sustainability. So thank you. Long live quality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, chairpersons and honorable speakers.